there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learnt an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human Hidden Depths. I do apologise. Gary and I started this podcast without you. We've been having a good chat about getting fit and losing a bit of weight. And I think many of us can understand that feeling of like trying on some clothes and they don't quite fit. And Gary's now fitting very slidely into all of his clothes because he's lost a bit of weight recently. Welcome, Gary, to the Being Human Hidden Depths podcast.
Thank you, Jill. Really looking forward to the chat.
It's good. I mean, we don't often get an opportunity to sit down and have a good natter. So I love these because not only do I catch up with you before, but also during the podcast. Excuse me. Gary is one of our members at Collaboration Global, and he is one of what I would call a stalwart, where he's constantly there, constantly giving advice, constantly viewing things from a different angle that make me go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Also, he's one of our money men. You might remember Craig Alexander Rattray had a podcast a little while ago with us. Also one of our money men. Obviously, we don't have competition in Collaboration Global, so they all get on very nicely. But Gary, you have a record of being a financial director, business consultant around strategy. How did you get into all of that in the first place? Were you just very good at numbers when you were at school?
I think it was, I enjoyed numbers at school. I actually did an extra mathematics course in school. So my top two subjects was two different maths classes.
Yes.
And I think I decided that I wanted to be an accountant, having been the fact that my father was an accountant, and it was my choice, not his, that I needed to follow that route. So I qualified as an accountant, and that was really what it was, just enjoying numbers, as you say. So yeah, and that was quite a few years ago, though.
we won't go into those kind of numbers. We don't have to know those details. But it's interesting, isn't it, how something that is kind of in you and natural, and you think, oh, this is easy. Why isn't everybody doing two maths classes? It's absolutely fun. And other people are going, oh no, don't make me do maths. I hate it. Such a mile apart. And you naturally went, what's my career? Oh, I'm going to do that because that's going to be with numbers. Yeah. And I've heard people say this before about numbers. It's kind of reassuring because you know where you are with them.
Yeah.
And I assume taking it into business as well, when you're an accountant, but then you take it into other people's businesses and you're looking at their business and they don't know the numbers and they see that you have to kind of clarify it and make it in their language. Do you find it frustrating when people aren't as enthusiastic as you are about the numbers, or do you just relish the thought of explaining it all to them?
I think, to me, it's the relishing the thought and actually seeing the light bulb switch after, click on after explaining to them. And there's all different types in the world who don't, there's those who don't like numbers at all, as you say. To me, the biggest is an entrepreneur knows what they are looking to do. They have developed a product, a service, or something which is their business. Numbers are not always top of the range, top of the pile for them. They wanting to get out and sell and service everyone. And then it's when they suddenly realize, what's happening with the bank balance? How can I pay myself this month? Can I hire somebody new? It's working with them on that basis of saying, right, let's work out how those numbers can work for you to be able to grow your business, whether it is a case of, do you want to take a dividend out to be able to take a holiday? And it's those type of things where they're unsure of because they just the bank balance, not necessarily aware of cash flow and how the money should be coming in and being paid out. It's always, I've come across quite a few people who they turn around and they say, "Oh, I'm a good payer. I always make sure that I pay my bills on time." So I said, "And do your customers pay you on time?" "No, I often have a problem with that.
Mm.
So I sometimes battle to make my payments because I want to make sure that I pay in time, but I haven't got enough money in the bank." And I said, "Well," and that's the part where to actually teach the process to a business owner of how it works. And that's what I love doing. I myself don't enjoy doing my own accounts, as you probably find a plumber doesn't enjoy doing their own plumbing at home.
Exactly. Cobbler's
So,
shoes, isn't it? Yeah.
but I love doing and helping somebody in their accounts and
Yeah.
working in their finance. So that's really
And
it's
as a business coach, one of the things that amazes me is that so many people don't have a clue. It's like, oh, I can't possibly hire somebody now because I haven't got a spare £30,000 to pay them. It's like, well, you don't need it up front. You don't
yeah,
pay them
exactly.
£30,000 on day one. Have you got enough
Exactly.
for 3 months? Have you got enough for 6 months? Yes, I do. How much? Well, they will have to earn their keep so that you can pay them
Yeah.
the next 6 months. What do you need them for? And it's this kind of logic of like, oh, it sweeps over their heads. I had a client once, they had outstanding business of £80,000 and they
Wow.
had excess stock of £40,000.
Wow.
And then they were worried that they weren't paying themselves because they didn't have enough cash in the bank.
Simple.
And what it was, it's this deep-seated, I don't like
Yeah.
picking the phone up. I don't like
Yeah.
asking people for money. It's really bizarre. The internal workings of a businessman, a business person who, have all these little foibles in these funny little ways, and it's damaging their business. And when
Yeah.
someone like you comes along, and goes, look, this is step A, step B, step C, this is how you do it, and this is why you do it. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll do as I'm told, and then I can do it. But thinking for themselves and, oh no, I'm not going to pick the phone up. Oh no, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to overcome.
Mm,
So, as
mm,
a strategist as well, business consultant and strategist, you've seen many businesses over the years, I take it,
yeah.
that are what's the biggest blunder, do you think? What's the most common thing that people have that they kind of struggle with, or maybe it's just the non-understanding of what's going on. But what do you think is the biggest thing around strategy that people make mistakes in?
The, having a blinkered view is what
Mm,
I find. A lot of people have a blinkered view. So I've been working, and I'm going to refer to one of my most recent clients. I've worked with them now over a 4 month period, and it's been gradually going through their strategy, going what their plans are, how they've been working,
yeah.
and turning around and saying to them, "Well, I facilitate their minds. It's their strategy. It's their business. I'm never going to tell them what they have to do,
No.
but I will sit there and facilitate and ask them the questions to say, what do you want to do?" So they happen to be involved in gardening. Okay. And it's asking the question, well, have you done this? No.
Mm,
Why not? Ah, hang on, we've never thought of that.
yeah.
And suddenly, where in the time period, they've changed their business totally, from being a situation from only doing one particular thing and one type of customer, to they have now got to a stage where we've identified 5 different types of customers and 5 different types of services that they can now concentrate on in targeting their marketing in a different way, because you
Mm,
can't, every type of customer is different,
yeah.
particularly in their situation. And that is where I'm finding is there's a lot of the pure blinkered look is this was my idea in the beginning, I'm not going to change it.
Yes,
The
that's very
world
true.
changes.
That's their safety. That's their little comfort zone, isn't it? That they
Exactly.
don't want to
Yeah.
move out of. And also, I think when you're working with someone, as you say, gardener or landscape or whatever, they have a love for what they do. They have a deep joy and a deep understanding of nature, of the seasons, of the plants they deal with, of the products that they're putting into their clients'
Mm.
gardens. And the business stuff is, oh, it's the other stuff I've got to do,
Yes.
and it's in the way and it's a nuisance, and just let me get on with what I enjoy doing. I want to make this beautiful area over here, and I'm going to put these trees over here, and I'm going to make this, and they maybe design it, or maybe they're just following instructions from a designer, but they know that it's their magic fingers that can bring it all to life. So to say to them, have you got a spreadsheet on your cash flow? And they're like, what's a spreadsheet? It's really hard to kind of
Exactly.
bring them back to that reality. But I think what you're saying is when people have got the blinkers on, it's having that extra voice and that extra view. And
Yeah.
have you thought about this? And have you done that? And would you consider this? And what have you done in the past? And it's asking those pertinent questions that make them sit, oh, yeah, we used to
Yeah.
do that, didn't we? Why don't we do that anymore?
Yeah.
And it all comes flooding back, and then you can take some action into that.
Yeah.
Your
Mm.
accent tells me, Mr. Brown, that you aren't a
Mhm.
native of the United Kingdom. So how long have you been in our green and pleasant land, and what made you come all the way from South Africa in the past?
Well, this month, July, July to actually no, we're in August today. But
Just, yeah.
last month, July, would have been 19 years that I've been in the UK.
Oh, wow, party next year. Woohoo.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and prior to that, I worked in South Africa for a number of large companies in their finance departments, moving my way up from being a junior accountant, head office accountant, up to being a financial controller. And my last job before moving to the UK was I was financial controller of a large international engineering company.
Wow.
And I landed up having to have two offices, one in Johannesburg and one in Switzerland, in Zurich.
Gosh.
And I lived 6 weeks in South Africa, 2 weeks in Switzerland for 5 years.
Oh, that's some
And
commute, isn't it? Wow.
it was quite a commute.
Mm.
I think I was gold member of 5 different airlines.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was the case of seeing the difference from the South African level of business to a first world country being in Switzerland. And
Mm,
it was a case that I thought, well, when I start looking for my next position, I'd like to move outside South Africa.
mm,
And it was then eventually that position, I got tired of the traveling, which was the main reason.
mm,
But there was also a restructuring of that business, which my last 6 months working for them was splitting the company into the group into two different separate entities. There was 80 odd companies that had to be restructured. For it was all tax purposes, financial purposes, but it had to be two separate structures. And then I had to rewrite the financial statements of 5 years as if those structures had been in place for 5 years, so that they could list the two companies on the London AIM market.
mm,
That happened supposed to me leaving them. I never saw them going to the AIM market, either of them. Um, but it was through that area that I just decided I wanted to look elsewhere, and I looked, and an opportunity came up in London,
mm.
and we moved the family across to London. And there's a story on the dates. In 2005, on the Wednesday, they announced that London were getting the Olympics, the 2012 Olympics.
Oh,
On the Thursday was the 7/7 tube
oh,
bombings.
my goodness. Yeah.
And on the Friday night, I got in an aeroplane and emigrated to London. So
Wow.
I landed here 2 days after the 7/7 bombings, and everybody in South Africa said, "How could you do that? It's going to be such a dangerous city." I said, "No. Have you seen how many police are there? It's going to be a very safe place when I get to London."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I came, and across from there. So yeah, it's a story which happened there. But yes, it was a case that I was looking to leave South Africa mainly for the education for the children.
Right.
I saw that there was better opportunities within the UK,
Mm,
security wise as well, because at that stage there's quite a large amount of security issues at the time in South Africa.
mm.
And that was the reason, those were the two reasons that we moved across.
Yeah. We've had a few South Africans on the show, and
Mhm.
a few that are in Collaboration Global, and one of them said that they gained an extra hour a day by moving to the UK because they didn't have to think about security and driving
Yeah.
home a different way every day and parking in a different place every day and making sure that they were checking that no one was following them every day. And it was like,
Yeah.
wow, it is a different world. I mean, one of the differences as well that we spoke to with Francis West, I think, on his podcast,
Mhm.
was about doing national service over
Oh,
there.
yes.
I mean, again, it was mooted by the previous government about national service. Everyone went, can't do that. And, and you guys have been through it. Would you recommend it for the UK? Do you think, was it a good thing for you, or was it just something that you'd wished you'd never had to get through?
I found when, put it this way, I didn't enjoy doing it, okay, because it
Mm.
was something was forced on me. However,
Yes. Yeah.
thinking back to it, it was a very good thing because it actually made all of us 18-year-olds who'd come out of school grow up and
Yeah.
actually become men because we were then given that extra opportunity. I almost saw it as I almost look back and saying a gap year. You people
Mm.
come out of school here and they want to go and do a gap year, doing touring the world or whatever their gap year is.
Yeah.
Well, I had a 2-year gap year, which was
Yeah.
doing military service. And in that time was able to decide what I wanted to do in going to university, etc. So that's what I thought it was. We all grew up. I think about 4 years after me finishing, they stopped. No, sorry, 10 years after after me finishing, they stopped national service.
Mm.
So they don't have that anymore. But it was to me, I think it would be good to have it.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And I think there are so many ways of looking at it. I think it's how it might be implemented, if it
Yes,
ever is implemented. But I think having a shrinking forces is not a good thing at this moment in time. But
agree.
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it is.
We'll just move on slowly from that one. Um, I asked this question of our guests. I love the answer. When you were about 6 or 7, what is one of your favorite happy memories? What is it that you did that was kind of like you just always remember that, oh, I was so happy then, it was amazing.
I was happy because we had just, and I'll go back to a school events because we played that time in the school, the primary school I was at, was winning some races in the athletics that we had.
Yeah.
Um, I had at the time, it's whether happy or unhappy, I had foot surgery on both my feet, so I was in plaster for about 3 months and had to be carried around
Oh.
initially, but then was able to walk. They made it that I could walk with a plaster of Paris on my feet.
Mm.
But it was shortly after that when they had the school athletics and I was able to run and win some races. So it had worked, whatever had happened. So that's the happy part where it is what
Oh,
I think about it.
that's lovely because I think we all remember those times in our childhood, when you have the mishap and you've broken an arm or done something for your foot, and it's kind of like this devastation of like, I can't do what I want to do and I've got to rely back on the grown-ups, and it's really hard. And then all of a sudden I think maybe the competitive spirit was coming out in you because you wanted to win.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was all part of it. Yeah, you're not sitting there going, oh, I used to really love my maths lessons when I was 6. I'm glad about that. You wanted to be
Yeah.
out. Which might actually tally up with what your passion is now, because you've been spending some time recently reading up on and learning more about sustainability and net zero from a business
Yes.
perspective. So I wonder whether you being out in nature and winning those races, having athletics, because you're not going to be doing that indoors, are you? You had to be
No.
out doing those races. I wonder if there was a part of you back then that knew that you had a love of nature and wanted things to be there.
I have always had a love of nature. One of the things with being in the UK versus South Africa, which I miss the most, is going to the game parks and seeing nature, the animals in their natural
Yeah,
habitats.
yeah.
Yes, we have game parks here, which is great, which we need to have. But to me, it's seeing them in the natural habitat and thinking about them and the impact which it's having on the world of the pollutants and the greenhouse gas emissions and all of that, which is worldwide. It's
Mm.
not local. It is worldwide. has become a passion, because I don't want to see more, these animals suddenly find that they can't, that they're suffering because of the heat, the storms, the rains, and everything which is happening with climate change at the moment.
Mm,
And for that reason, I've thought that is something which we need to do. We also know that with COP, all the various COPs which have happened, the countries, and 137 countries, as far as I'm aware, it's 137, have signed up to be net zero by 2050.
mm.
Now, if you think about it, if a country is going to sign up to be net zero, you and me as individuals, apart from all the businesses and the government themselves, are all going to have to do something to do with reducing everything with carbon emissions.
Mm.
And that's what I thought, well, that would be great to be able to help the local community in understanding that, to get their businesses doing that and positive onto that, on that basis. So that is where it is, and it's just become to me a passion that I'm spending so much time on.
Yeah, I agree. And there are so many people out there that go, oh, but I'm just one small business. What can I do? What impact can I make? It's the industry, it's the corporates that need to make changes, and then we'll see the difference. What do you think to that argument?
The argument there is it's simple. Just do recycling, and you're doing something towards the world, towards all of that. It's not a difficult thing to do. Yes, it is businesses who have to do all the carbon reporting, etc., etc. Us as individuals don't. But at the moment, we never know what could happen in the future. As we get towards 2050, you might find that things could change in the future.
Mm,
And the smaller businesses at the moment are not having to do it. But there's something which is likely to happen probably within 2 years' time, which could cause the smaller businesses, even you and me as individuals working for ourselves, having to do our own carbon reporting to
mm.
be able to provide to our customers. And that won't be a legal thing. It'll become your customer is wanting your information. If you don't provide that information, you're not going to be supplying to me. And
Yeah.
that's the concern I have with the smaller businesses are not aware of that type of thing happening.
Yeah, I can imagine that because in my TED talk, I said that the SME world, the small medium enterprises, have all of the power but none of the control. So individually, we think, oh, what can we do? But together, if we all start making that difference now, then in 2, 3 years' time, if we are being told we have to, measure our carbon footprint and all of these things, we go, well, it's all right, we're doing it, it's fine,
Mm.
because we know that people will buy from people that are doing that sort of thing, who are being responsible, taking radical responsibility to make sure that we are following those kind of guidelines and doing our bit for
Yeah.
the sustainability and the world at large.
Yeah.
Um, if if people are blaming and pointing a finger at others, excuse me, two wrongs don't make a right. It's all
Yeah.
very well pointing to the industry and look at that, coal mine or whatever we shouldn't be mining. And it is terrible when all of these things are happening, but us not doing anything doesn't make it better. And by moaning about them doesn't make it better. But we
Exactly.
all have to come together so that, a bit like not smoking in a restaurant, if you look at somebody now, not, smoking in a restaurant, everybody would be up in arms and everybody would say, for goodness sake, what are you doing?
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, before it was law, people would be smoking in a restaurant. And if you didn't smoke, you'd be like, oh, oh, but you wouldn't dream of saying anything. But
Yeah.
now you've given permission that you can. So it's like, if you want to stop smoking, i.e., if you want to stop damaging the planet, start with your business and make it carbon neutral as much as you possibly can and work towards that state. Um, and then when we are told we have to, and it will come at some point, we know it will
That
come,
will.
you're already there, you're already doing it. That's why
Yeah.
organizations like ORB, the Organization for Responsible Business, run by Jill Poet and her team, they are beginning to help other businesses to come together and realize that you're not alone. There are thousands of businesses out there that are already taking those steps. So I think you're really right to highlight it, Gary. What are the
Yeah.
sorts of things that a small business could do, just as a that they might not have thought of, perhaps, or are not doing already?
Just doing plain recycling and making sure that when they're doing the recycling, I've been into a business premises recently where I wanted to know where to throw a piece of paper, and they said, no, just in the bin. And I said, but where's your recycling? They said, no, we don't do that.
Oh
I
dear.
said, I looked at the it was actually one of the directors I was speaking. I said, do you do recycling at home? He said, yeah. So I said, but you don't do recycling here. He says, no, it's too much of an issue. It's going to cost me too much to get all the bins, the separate bins and all of that. So,
Mm,
well, do you know already that what you sell? Do you sell to anything of any government institutions? Yeah, no, we do sell to the government. I said, you do know that the NHS have already said if you don't have a carbon plan, we're not allowed to buy from it. We're not allowed to buy from you. And that's already starting to come in. So doesn't matter how big your business is, it could be that it's going
mm,
to have effect. But simple recycling, having separate bins in a business, turning off the electricity at night,
yeah.
uh, turn the heating off in this hot heat. Don't leave it just sitting there that you could land up having the gas being wasted.
Mm,
Simple things like that will help you in what you're needing to do. When you renew your electricity contracts and gas, make sure you do it with with a re, re, not with one of the oil ones, but yeah,
yeah, it's a responsible provider. Yeah,
that's
for
it. A
sure.
responsible provider. Sorry, I
No, it's
was talking
okay.
fast.
I mean, as well, if you're a larger company, then appoint someone responsible for checking these things and
Yes,
have that checklist so that it's systematic and a lot of it can be automated, but then you're aware of it and then everybody's aware of it. And then somebody is responsible for making sure that, no, why did you put that piece of paper in there? You should put it over
yes,
there. And it might be nitpicking at first, but it is about building that culture, isn't it?
exactly.
Having that culture where everybody's on it. And most people want to be respectful of the environment. Then most people wouldn't leave litter. They would recycle. And as you say, they're doing it at home. So why wouldn't you do it in the office? You'd be quite proud. There's an organization that we utilize and we're partnered with, B1G1.
Oh, yes.
And they teach the businesses that are part of that to say that, well, you want to advertise that every time somebody buys from you, you are donating, you are making an impact to somebody else within the charity of B1G1.
Mhm.
So why would you buy coffee from a coffee shop that just takes your profit and runs with it, rather than a coffee shop that's charging you exactly the same price, but
Mhm.
it's going to donate to people that don't have fresh water, people that need education supplies, people that are planting trees and stopping, reducing the carbon footprint of air miles or whatever it might be. So there are definitely ways that we can encourage people to do these things. And I think there are organizations out there that want to do it, but just don't know how. So this
Yeah,
is something that you now do, isn't it? In the not too
exactly.
distant future,
Yeah.
you're going to be going out and helping people to look at their office. And because they might just think, oh, recycle paper, recycle stuff. But as you've just said, it's the how are you heating? How are you cooling your building? It's the draft excluders. What sort of furniture have you got? If you need to renew your furniture, do you know you can buy recycled furniture that's just as good as the old stuff? It's all of those little things that you can consider. How many pens are in people's offices? What sort of pens are they? Have they been recycled, those pens? Many of them are made from recycled property, or if they're used and old, they can be recycled and turned into children's play areas of all
Yeah.
things. It's amazing potential. The businesses out there that are highlighting um, how we can recycle anything now is possible to be recycled. Even your laptop that you're working on, you think,
Yeah,
oh no, I've just bought this is brand new. It's like, well, why would you buy a brand new one? They can just get revamped and use, it's still going to work. Might have a dent in the lid, but it's still going to work. So you don't
exactly.
always have to be doing the best of the best and being fancy and flash.
Agreed. And to get away from this throwaway culture which we have, it's so much, it's that I think is,
Mm.
and it's almost training the employee, speaking to the employees within a business, not necessarily the leaders, because the leaders have to lead what they're planning on doing, but actually turning around and encouraging that all the staff members follow the same route, and then and then if that's how it would happen. If everybody does it and takes that learnings back home to them for themselves, then it'll work both ways.
Yeah. And I think when we get over the angry protesters, the stop oil people, and all that goes with that, because that isn't doing the sustainability
No,
industry any good whatsoever, is it? And
no.
whilst we know that the planet has these problems, and as you say, we are a throwaway society, that's what we've been taught over the last 30, 40 years. We still don't need to be put off. Don't let the crazies put you off doing the recycling and the sustainability, because they are so passionate. But also, I think there is an element of they just have fun mixing it up.
Yeah,
My opinion. I think there are people out there that just want to cause mischief,
yeah,
putting it politely. That is very polite. And I don't think they should. We don't need to, because of them, be put off of doing the right thing. I remember going back to my parents who just come out of the war era. They recycled practically everything. All the food was always put together, and that went to the compost, or it went to the pig man who came and collected it. There was the selvage. Somebody came and collected all the paper and the cardboard. All the wool and the material and the cotton was saved. My mum was a seamstress. Nothing ever got put into waste. It was a little patchwork this or a patchwork that, or it was clothes for me and my sister. She used to put out into the bin a tiny, small carrier bag. Wouldn't have been a carrier bag. She didn't even take plastic bags to the supermarket. So there was a small bag of rubbish that she didn't know what to do with. She didn't know how to, and that'd be like once a fortnight. For a family of 4, tiny little bag would go in the bin. Why we can't do that now? Because we've just got lazy. It's
yeah.
easier to buy a bottle of water than to take your own somewhere, you know. So I think, yeah, when you start picking it to pieces, this is the way, the future of business, isn't it? Of
It
having to,
is.
we can't ignore it any longer.
Yeah,
And even,
definitely.
and even if you're one of these people that are, oh, it's not, global warming's not really happening. Yeah, but we're still over consuming. We're still cutting down too many trees in the Amazon forest, and all the creatures that were living there have been dislodged. And we need to care about our planet. I don't want to have a plan B. I don't want to go and live on Mars. I don't want to live anywhere else. I quite like our planet, but we just
Yeah.
need to stop spoiling it too much.
I agreed.
So Gary, what's for the future for you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Apart from being the Slim Jim, now you're on this regime of running and good health. What do you see happening for you in the future?
I see myself getting a lot more involved with with helping the small businesses with regards to sustainability and net zero, and specializing in that area, because I believe as you said, it's the future. Um, Hopefully being able to take a few more holidays due to that.
Mm,
But it's really just being able to spend time making sure that everything happens with regards growing, getting the planet, and not going as a stop oil and gluing myself to the M25. No.
no. No, that's that. I can't imagine why anybody would think that was useful.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So,
No.
when you go on holiday, do you pop back to South Africa? When was the last time you were there?
Unfortunately, the last time I was there was 2019, pre COVID
Mm,
lockdowns. We were due to go in 2020, but obviously all of that was cancelled.
yeah,
And since then, it's just been wary of traveling.
yeah.
And so that's the case. So yeah, we still see the family regularly on WhatsApp, on Zoom calls on a weekly basis. But yeah, it's been 5 years now since we've last been back,
So if
which
you
is difficult.
That is a
I
long
would love to
time.
go back and spend a few days in one of the game parks, as I was saying earlier. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And I've never been to one, so that's something on my to-do list. I haven't got around to doing that yet.
Yeah, you
Um,
must.
so when you go on a plane, will you be offsetting your carbon footprint in any way?
I will be finding as many ways that I can do that offsetting.
Fabulous. Well, listen, on that note, Gary, if anybody's sitting there thinking to themselves, I don't have a clue if my business is sustainable, if I'm recycling, if I'm net zero, if I'm, doing the right thing, and I would really like to be able to put a stamp somewhere to say that I am. What's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you so you can help them sort that dilemma out?
Well, the easiest way would be for them to either go through Collaboration Global, where my contact details are on Collaboration Global. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and oh crikey, I can't remember, Gary I. Brown, I think it is on there, or to drop me an email at gary.brown@businessdoctors.co.uk. Um, that would be the easiest, and I will respond as the moment I get a message.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And if anybody wants to come along and meet Gary on a Zoom call, we have our monthly guest sessions at Collaboration Global, and he's nearly always there. And
Yes.
we would love to have you join us as well. So if you go to collaborationglobal.org, it tells you where to book. You can book the session, or you can find us on Eventbrite as well. And you can look us up on LinkedIn too. So, and we'll put all the show notes underneath this as well, so people can contact you directly, Gary. Thank you so much for this conversation. You really put my mind back into how I can be sustainable for my business, and how it is the future of marketing. Because if you can boast that you are a net zero business, that's a pretty cool thing, and people will want to buy from you going forward. So thank you so much for your time today.
That's a pleasure, Jill, and thank you very much as well.
Brilliant. See you soon. Take
You
care.
say.